One of the most common and also most general questions that I get about fueling for a marathon is what should a typical day of fueling look like when I'm training for a marathon? So, as we all know, typically marathon training consists of a lot of high volume runs, and then as the training block progresses, we're adding in intensity as well. So, that would be your interval training. If you're doing any speed or anything like that, that would be your intensity. Usually you have at least one really big long run per week. So when we add together all of the days that you're training and the volume that you're training at, you're training about at least 45 typically to 60 minutes per day, and a lot of times more than that. So the importance of fueling is huge, because otherwise, when we're spending all this time training, if we're not eating enough, we're not going to respond as well to that training. We're not going to absorb it and really learn from it and grow from it. We're also going to put ourselves at a higher risk for injury, and then we can't even get to the starting line healthy. So the fueling piece is really huge for a marathon, but it is something that can be challenging because, especially in the summer, when you're running harder or longer and you're training in the heat and the humidity, your appetite often gets suppressed because of, the stress on your body from the heat and the training. So the problem with that is we still need to eat, but it can be challenging. So usually what I tell marathoners that a typical day should look like, we want to think of that in two parts. We want to think of when we're eating and then what we're eating. So they're both equally as important. There's been a lot of research done on athletes who technically eat enough in a day, but if they're going long periods of time without fueling, they're at a higher risk for being in a state of energy deficit, which is when you just don't respond as well to training and you're more likely to get injured. You're kind of tired all the time, things like that. So the best thing to do, especially in the summer when your appetite can be suppressed, is to come up with a fueling schedule. So this should be something about every 3 to 4 hours. You want to be eating about every 3 to 4 hours. You always want to be eating before, so within about 90 minutes of your training sessions, and then also within about 60 minutes of that training session. So, considering that in there as well, and then the rest of the day, making sure we're eating about every 3 to 4 hours. So that means we need to have both meals and snacks, which brings me to the what should I be eating? And so at meals, what we're looking for, because you guys are training a significant amount, we want about half of your plate to come from starchy carbs. These should be the star of the show. This is what's going to give you the most fuel. This is how your body is going to get through all this training. And it's the most commonly used source of fuel for pretty much any system in your body. So if we're low on carbs, we're more likely to experience some fatigue, even some soreness, really struggling with recovery, mood swings, energy dips, that kind of stuff. So those starchy carbs should be the star of the show at meals. And what we're looking for here is something like pasta, rice, bread, cereal, bagels, oats, those kinds of things. So thinking, potatoes, starchy carbs there. That should be about half of your plate. Then we want about a quarter of your plate to be coming from protein. So this could be any type of dairy product like yogurt or cottage cheese or milk, anything like eggs, poultry, fish, beef, tofu, any type of soy product is going to give you some protein if you're a non-meat eating person. So those are the kind of things we want for protein, and typically aiming for around 20 to 30 grams of protein at each meal is a good goal for most athletes. And then the other quarter of your plate should be coming from color, so fruits or vegetables. And a lot of athletes are surprised when I tell them that I typically see runners overdoing it on the fruits and veggies, and that's actually not something I would recommend. The reason being, first of all, they're not very calorie dense. They don't really have any carbs or protein, but they do have a lot of fiber. So that fiber is really filling, which makes it feel like you ate a large meal, for example, if you have a big salad, but it doesn't really give you much in terms of actually fueling your training. The other piece to that is too much fiber, especially when you are marathon training, puts you at higher risk for GI issues, which I'm sure if you've experienced, it's very disruptive to your day, to your training, and it's just uncomfortable, and it's not something that you want to be dealing with during training and especially on race day. So only about a quarter of your plate should be coming from color. You only need about 5 servings total of fruits and vegetables combined per day to get the adequate amount of nutrients from those foods. And a serving size is only about the size of your fist. So again, most athletes are overdoing it on the color, and especially when you're trying to string together consistent training, staying healthy, getting enough fuel, too much of that fiber is going to inhibit that. So keep that in mind. So that would be a meal. We're looking for a half your plate as a starchy carb, quarter as protein, and then a quarter as color. And then when you're not eating your meals, we're going to be having snacks. And yes, snacks are good. Snacks are something that you do want to incorporate. If you're waiting all the way up until a meal to eat, what tends to happen is that you get too hungry and then you overeat because you're eating too fast at your meal and you're starving. And we never want to get to that point where we're absolutely starving. So when we're having snacks throughout the day, we want to be building a snack that's balanced. So a snack that has both carbs and protein together. This is going to help you maintain energy levels throughout the day, maintain mood, maintain focus, and then also help you build and maintain lean muscle mass, which is the whole purpose of training. So examples of snacks that have both carbs and protein. One of my favorites on the go is like pretzels and a cheese stick, or peanut butter. That's a super easy one. Greek yogurt with fruit and granola, trail mix, any type of bar that has carbs and protein. So some good examples would be like your standard Cliff Bar, an RX bar, Perfect Bar. Those kinds of bars are really great. I would steer clear of just the pure protein bars that don't have carbs in them. We need a little bit of both. Or if you're going to do a protein bar, pairing it with something like a piece of fruit to get those carbs as well. And then, in general, if you're kind of struggling with appetite and you just need something quick that's easy to get down, a liquid option is great. So this could be like a glass of milk with a piece of fruit. It could be cereal and milk. Yogurt and fruit tends to be an easy one. Or there's also drinkable Greek yogurts out there that have a great amount of carbs and protein as well. So to summarize, we want to get into a fueling schedule where we're fueling before and after training and every 3 to 4 hours throughout the day. We want to build our plates with half carbs, quarter protein, quarter color, and then we want to incorporate snacks that have both a carb and a protein.